Hello and welcome to Perspectives. My name is David Schoenem and I'm your host on this show. On Perspectives, we take a look at issues that are important to folks here in Nashua, whether they relate to local politics or local issues or state level or federal level. Today we're going to be talking about something that has been percolating for about a year and a half right here in the city of Nashua. It's a local issue and it's been garnering a lot of attention. And that's this issue of expanding, putting into Roby Park a pro-level disc golf course. And with me today in the studio to talk about this is Denise Muccioli, who is one of the abutters, and she's formed a group, a number of concerned citizens in that area who are most directly affected by the plans for this disc golf course. And we're going to talk about that today and get some of the details and bring you up to date. Thanks for tuning in. Denise, thanks for coming in.
Good afternoon, David.
Very glad to have you here. So tell us a little bit about disc golf. I mean, I live near Greeley Park, and I see those chain baskets. I always wondered what those things were, and that I understand is disc golf. Tell us a little bit about disc golf, and then maybe you can bring us up to date on what's going on over there.
Sure. Disc golf is rising in popularity. I did learn that. And it kind of functions under the same rules as regular golf. They have to throw the disc, and it needs to land in the basket.
So it's like a frisbee, basically. You're throwing a frisbee. Is it solid, or has it got a ring in it? It isn't a ring. It's a disc.
It's a disc. It's a little heavier than your backyard throwing your frisbee around.
Is it plastic?
I don't know what it's made out of.
Is it the same size as a frisbee, would you say?
I'm not sure if it's exactly the same size.
But it's got a little more weight.
Yeah, it does. And so they throw it, and the goal is to use the least amount of shots to get it in the basket. They'll sometimes ricochet it off trees and things like that. There's tee pads that they shoot from. That's about it. It's very similar to regular golf. But
instead of swinging a club and hitting the ball,
you're throwing a disc.
You're throwing it in. And what are the typical distances? We know golf courses, you're hitting, a pro golfer is taking 3, 4, 5 shots to get from the tee to the green or in the cup. Are these large distances? Or they're probably not as large as a regular golf course.
Yeah, I don't think they're large as regular golf, but they are, they can be lengthy. They can, professionals can throw up to 400 feet.
Wow.
So that's from a very long distance. And
so a football field is 300 feet long.
Yeah.
So a professional can throw this thing
up to 400 feet.
Longer than the distance that a football field is.
They can really let them fly.
I guess they can. That's impressive.
And, they fly anywhere from 40 to 80 miles an hour. I think the record is 89 right now.
Thrown by someone who's a pro, an adult.
Yes, a very high level pro. Yeah.
So a kid in grade school wouldn't be throwing it at that speed.
No, obviously no.
Yeah,
no.
But
professionals definitely. It's something to see. I don't have anything against disc golf per se. Mm-hmm. My issues is with safety, things like that, and this destruction of wildlife habitat.
All right. So tell us. How did all this come to your attention? What's going on here in Nashua that people need to know about with this course? Where did this all come from?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, how I found out about it was I was working from home and I heard a bunch of trees getting cut for multiple days, and I'm like, okay. So I sent my friend up there and I said, go see what they're cutting. And this
is right in Roby Park.
Right at Roby Park, yeah. And he said, oh, they're just trimming the trees or something. And I'm like, okay, And then it kept going on for days. So then I walked up there and I saw the public works trucks. And I asked the gentleman what they were doing, and I was taking pictures. I wasn't getting their faces or anything like that, just kind of taking some pictures. And he explained to me, he said, oh, well, we're building a disc golf park here at Roby Park on the trails. And I was not happy with that. That's how I learned about it. And this is probably the beginning of April that I learned about it.
Beginning of April of this year? I mean, 2022?
Yes.
Or 2021?
No, 2022. It was approved by the Board of Public Works on August 27th, 2021. If anybody wants to look at the minutes online, they can see the discussions that were had. So
you as an abutter, found out in April of 2022 that a decision had been made in August of 2021 to approve this park, this course inside Roby Park. Were there any notices put up, like variance hearings, anything like that? No
notices put up whatsoever. And they did have a couple, I think there was a meeting before the one that they approved, maybe two. And, that's the public notice, but if they had followed the procedure that everybody else needs to follow in this city, there would have been a sign that said, They would have posted an approved site plan, a variance for the wetlands, and then once we saw those signs, we would have been, our
Sure.
opposition would have been right then and there. But we didn't have that opportunity, and we keep getting shut down basically by the government.
Based on a lot of things I've seen, as a former alderman, I've seen a lot of things in the city in the last 10 years or so, and that seems to be the new MO.
Yep.
Down there at City Hall. They make decisions, they do it, and then they see what they get away with.
Yep.
And then they deal with consequences later if they have to. But meanwhile, things happen that
Exactly.
maybe shouldn't be happening. So what happened in August of 2021 at this meeting? I know you weren't there, but
Yep.
you've learned the history.
Oh, yes, I've
What
watched it.
happened at that time?
Multiple times. There was a 15-minute or so presentation about disc golf, and the presentation was by a gentleman named Dick Smart, who is an avid disc golfer.
He lives here in Nashua?
Yes, he does, yep.
Okay.
And then there was also Alex McLean. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but he works for the Department of Public Works, and he had been pushing Lisa Foto, the Director of Public Works, to get a disc golf park in Nashua.
Does he disc golf too, do you know?
Yes,
He
yes,
does,
him
okay.
and his wife and his kid.
I see, okay,
Yep.
right. Family sport?
His child, I should say. And then, so they had that presentation, and they also had on the line, both of them are remote, Alex and Avery Jenkins, a world champion disc golfer who's also the course designer for this, a professional course designer. So they all had a 15-minute presentation to speak about it, and to, Dickie had mentioned that it's more or less kind of saved his life. He was an addict, and during COVID, well, during COVID, what saved my life was being able to safely walk behind where I live and enjoy the
Yeah.
stream and the animals coming through.
Yes.
Because I didn't go anyplace when COVID was shut everything
Yeah.
down.
Now, was there any opposition voiced at that meeting?
There was only one person that spoke with a reasonable opinion, and that was Commissioner Tracy Pappas, who's sadly passed away. And she knew right away, a couple of things that she said, and I really feel she got bulldozed right over. She said, let's slow this down. Let's follow the process. We'll do a site walk. We'll talk to the abutters. And she predicted me, because she even said, once those people at the abutters hear the trees coming down, you're going to have a problem.
So
And
you hadn't spoken with her to that?
Nope. And she was right. She has a problem, and her name is Denise.
Okay, so this was approved by the Board of Public Works
Correct, by a quorum, yep.
in 2020, August of 2021, and then the trees started coming down
Yep.
in April.
That's when I noticed them. Whether they cut some trees before or not, I cannot say. I think I would have noticed, or
Sure.
I would have noticed.
They're out there with chainsaws
Yeah, I
and
would have,
equipment.
kind of
and-
would have noticed that.
How many
yeah.
trees were cut down?
In my estimation, we've walked the park a number of times, and one of the other members, in my estimation, 125 trees. And they're
And-
saying 48. I count a tree as a sapling is a tree. It's a baby
Sure,
tree.
sure.
So those should count. And I also looked at whether you can tell if they've been cut with a chainsaw or if it was a natural break somewhere along the tree. I'm not saying every single down tree in the
Sure.
park is from them, but they cut a significant amount of trees. We no longer have the protection from some of the sounds at Roby Park. The sound filter has been reduced. The light filter has been reduced because now we see traffic at East Dunstable Road. So there's a good number of trees, and unfortunately it affects the whole canopy, and that affects the wildlife as well because they no longer have that shelter to winter in.
Right, that makes a big difference for
Yes,
them.
it certainly does.
So they say they cut down 48 trees, you
Yes.
say 125
I
trees?
say 125.
And their plan calls for more trees to be cut down.
74 more trees according to the application that they made to the Nashua Conservation Commission.
So that's a lot of trees,
It's a lot
even
of
by their
trees.
count.
It's a lot of trees, and I believe one of the members was told that they were going to be expanding the parking lot in that area, and that's where they were going to be taking out the majority of the trees. There's next to Roby Tot Lot, there's a nice little treed section with a path from the upper to the lower lot, and a lot of times in the summertime, people will sit there with their dogs while they're watching their children play a thing. So if we lose all those trees, I'm betting more than just our group is not going to be happy with that.
Well, I think a lot of folks probably don't even know about it because
That's the
someone living in a
issue.
different part of the city isn't going to hear the chainsaws.
Correct.
And depending on what time of year it is, I mean, my wife takes our son there
Yep.
to Roby Park. He loves Roby Park.
It's a beautiful park.
It's a beautiful park. He loves Roby Park, loves playing in all the equipment
Yep.
there. But if we're not there all the time, someone might look at it and say, oh, yeah, it looks like it's a little different,
Yeah.
but I can't quite put my finger on it.
Yep.
You know, that's the kind of thing that can happen. So in
Exactly.
April, you learned about this, and then
Correct.
then what happened? What did you start doing?
So in April, I saw how the trees that were felled were affecting the stream. Now, that was before the drought hit us, because we had the bad drought last year. You could see all the growth from different kind of plant species, and it spread very widely through the through the forest. I saw the trees that were painted orange. Those were the target trees, just laying across the stream. I saw trees that were pulled up or knocked over by the machinery, roots and all, and that was affecting the erosion into the stream. So I said, I don't like this very much. So I immediately filed a complaint with the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services, the Wetland Division.
They're up in Concord?
Yes.
That's a state level group.
Exactly, yep. And they sent somebody out. It took him a while to come out. It's not a 9/11 emergency, but he did come out. Shortly after that, I noticed that there was some straw down near the streams and the banks of the forest. And I noticed the silt socks down that are supposed to help prevent erosion. These are temporary measures, as told to me by the NHDES. They're only temporary. And he's going to be coming out again to make another assessment as to what type of remediation needs to happen. His report did say that they did impact wetlands in several areas of the trail. So I have a problem with that.
I can understand that. It makes sense. Was the city supposed to have cleared it with NHDES?
Yes.
Before any cutting?
Yep. There was, at one point, the Board of Public Works somebody on the Board of Public Works had a conversation with the National Conservation, and they kind of talked about it and said, well, you're going to need approval going forward. Next thing you know, somebody calls up and complains that trees are being cut, and that was even before I had even realized it, and they weren't happy about that. The Conservation Commission was not happy about that. They specifically had, you need to walk everything through us. So that's something.
So the Conservation Commission, that's Nashua.
Nashua City.
But the New Hampshire DES, was someone supposed to have filed a request or some kind of permit, seek a permit with them?
Yes,
before cutting any trees?
Yes, it's my understanding they were supposed to file for variance.
Would the city do that, or would the Conservation Commission, if they approved it, would they file?
It should have been the city.
Okay.
From what I understand, it should have been the city. And again, if they had filed a variance, we would see that. Now, there's a lot of development off of Buck Meadow Road. Bishop Girton's putting in a huge athletic complex, but they're repurposing land that they're not destroying a bunch of trees. They're taking a few trees down, but they did it the right way. They went to the Conservation Commission. They got, I don't think they got approved the first round, but the second round they had a discussion. I was there, and they agreed on some middle ground to do things. And then next they went to the Planning Board, and they said, I have permission, all right, National Commission Conservation approved us, and now we're in front of the Planning Board. They did the right steps.
So there are steps to follow.
There are steps to follow.
Prescribed path to follow.
Yep.
And adequate public notice
Yes.
is given. And the public has an option to speak out at these meetings.
Yes.
And the meetings are going to occur. So these kinds of things didn't happen. So New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services, they didn't know about this. They were probably somewhat surprised. They came out and did an inspection.
Did not know about it. Nope.
Okay.
And the gentleman, the scientist, came out, and then Nashua, this Board of Public Works, hired their own scientists to come out and delineate the wetlands. And he's the one that, it was Gove, G-O-V-E, Environmental, and he submitted the application to the Conservation Commission. But due to public outcry and a lot of input, whether negative or positive, they decided to postpone the application with Nashua Conservation Commission, and now they say they want to work with them. Well, you know what? The time to work with them would have been back in August.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be today.
So when was that application pulled? So the city pulled the application back from the...
They postponed it. I asked,
postponed
is it? Yeah, and they said it was postponed due to, they got a lot of public comment.
So when did that postponement occur?
I don't remember exactly, but I'd say probably 2-3 months ago, somewhere in that time frame.
Okay, so were they cutting trees up until 2 or 3 months ago?
No, they stopped cutting trees when the report was filed. Approximately April 11th of 2022 is when they stopped cutting trees.
Okay, so once the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services got involved, the city just said, all right, we're gonna stop cutting the trees.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they had much of a choice.
No, well, it's good. Sometimes it has to be that way
Yeah.
because I think the attitude sometimes seems to be, let's see what we get away with.
Yep.
And I'm not, naming particular people or I'm just saying that seems to be. It looks like that's the MO.
Yep.
Sometimes. Let's see what we can get away with.
What's that saying? It's easier to ask forgiveness than permission, and that's what's going on here. And
I'd rather beg for forgiveness than ask for
exactly.
permission. Yeah.
And this has become, to me, I'm not politically inclined at all, but this has become much more than disc golf at this point.
Sure.
I've asked for 15 minutes to present our case to the board,
Sure.
and we've been denied time after time. I've got a pile of letters we've written.
And who do you write them to?
The mayor, Conservation, Board of Public Works, Sierra Club. I mean, I've hit probably pretty much all of them.
Yeah, when I was on the Board of Aldermen, I've said this in the show before, various shows that have been on here, one of the things I liked best was public comment time. I really enjoyed it because I think that's vital to self-government. People should be allowed to speak. And there shouldn't be a time limit, in my opinion. Say what you want to say.
Yep.
And whatever someone has to say, it may take 3 minutes, it may take 5, it may take 10 minutes. I'm okay with that. Once they're done making their point, they'll be done and satisfied. But I think we need to listen to all those folks. We really do. And what seems to be happening in the city too, and cities maybe across the country, is that the public is being denied the opportunity, whether it's by not posting proper notices for meetings or posting them somewhere that no one really sees. Oh, well, we posted it. No one read the fine print. Well, not my problem. I don't approve of that. That's not right.
No.
But people should be encouraged to speak up. It's very important. Otherwise, people like yourself and many others around the city of Nashua end up being dissatisfied. Here, you were just living your life, enjoying the park, you hear some chainsaws. And next thing you know, now you're saying, I'm discovering a lot of things going on in the city that don't seem to be right. And I think a number of people have gone down the same path you have, where they're finding things that are just being done that really are not right.
I can give you an excellent example if you'd like. So one of the members of the group called the board of directors at Oak Hill. They knew nothing about the project.
Oh.
Nothing. So we asked for permission to post in our buildings some information about this. And the idea was we were going to have a meeting at our clubhouse, which I think the limit is 43 people. If it got too big there, they were in conversation with Alderman Sullivan, we were going to move it to New Searles. Next thing you know, it becomes a city hall meeting. Now, I have several problems with that. Some people don't want to speak at City Hall. They're not public speaking. They're nervous and they don't know what to say. There's several people in our group that can't get to that meeting. And the whole purpose of it was to talk and talk to the abutters. Now, I've been asking them to talk to the abutters for a long time. So now they can check that box off. They talk to abutters.
Right. They did it at City Hall where they can intimidate people.
Right.
And that's what happens. People know that. That's the MO.
Yep.
It's wrong.
And you're limited to 3 minutes. So at one point, we were going to have 5 people talk for 3 minutes. And now they've eliminated Zoom meetings. And I actually have a bigger problem with that because that now makes the meetings inaccessible to people that either don't drive, have trouble seeing at night, or somebody with mobility issues. And that is not fair.
No, it's not.
It's not equitable.
No, it's not.
So that's why I say this is much bigger than disc golf now.
Yes, it is. It's a fairness issue, a transparency issue. And I applaud you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
And I hope that you get support from the groups that the folks in the group that you're working with, and from other folks around the city, because you're not the only one on a campaign for greater transparency.
Yep.
And there are other folks I've spoken with on the show who are pursuing really justice issues.
Really?
For the taxpayer.
Yep.
I think justice is encouraged for everybody except for the taxpayer.
Yep.
And that's wrong. So thank you for doing that.
You're
and
welcome.
I hope that you can get some good traction here.
Yeah, I mean, if we have to hire an attorney, we can also do that. I have been, I did have several conversations with an attorney.
Good.
So it's a special interest group that wants to come in and use that park for their own purposes. And what it's going to do you know, they're saying to get people outside, give them another activity. It's going to keep the people that want to use the park away from using it. And some of the people that use the park may be hearing impaired. They're not going to hear you say, duck, my disc is going to hit you. They're not going to hear you.
Right.
A small child walking through the woods with his group, they're not going to know. They're not going to know the risk. And some of the risks, people have lost eyes. That was a $3 million loss settlement. $3 million. I don't know if the city of Nashua can handle that without cutting into taxpayer money.
Well, they certainly can handle it. The city of Nashua gets some money from nobody but taxpayers.
Yeah.
It's the only place it comes from, taxpayers.
Yeah.
So that means it's going to be on our backs. And of course, we know that
exactly.
taxes have gone up a lot this last round. Let's talk about money a little bit. You mentioned money. I mean, $3 million.
Yes.
Certainly the city doesn't have that. What is this course going to cost?
Okay, so the Rotary West Club, it's actually going to be called Rotary West Disc Golf Park, I believe. The budget was, they were going to give a $30,000 grant for this purpose, and Lisa Foto said, you know, now we don't have to touch taxpayer money.
So $30,000 was supposed to cover the cost of this course?
Yes.
It sounds like a low number to me.
Yep, it was supposed to cover the cost. And from what I see, they have one basket up. You know, they throw the disc into the basket. They've got one basket up.
Out of 18?
Out of 18. There's no T-pad even at that basket, so they have to get another 17 baskets, install those. They have to get T-pads at every single hole. They have to put up signage. They have to expand the parking lot, and they also have to do any remediation that the state or the conservation wants them to do. And I'm trying to think what else.
Got to cut more trees.
Yeah, well, yeah, you got to cut for 70 something, whatever they're saying, and you know, they'll be tarring and all of this stuff. So for that amount, for what's been done already, according to John Griffin, Attorney John Griffin, they've spent $21,000 and some change on essentially what amounts to one hole.
So they've spent a little more than 1/3 of their budget, and have only done 1/17.
Well, more than 1/3, right?
Well, 20,000.
20 out of 30.
Oh, out of 30. I thought it was 60. 20 out of 30.
30.
Okay, so they spent 2/3.
They spent, yeah.
Spent 2/3.
Quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
So that, in addition, they proposed to build bridges over some of the streams and stuff. So that's going to be additional money. I'm just curious as to where that money's coming from, if it's taxpayers.
I'd be curious about it too. You know, we've been offered, quote, free things.
Yeah.
The city's been offered free things in the past that turned out to be anything but free.
Because there's also maintenance, and the disc golf club claims they're going to do the maintenance, but I'll tell you, it's the abutters that are out there picking up trash daily and trying to keep it clean. There's even a bunch of trash that comes onto our property, blows and whatever. And there was even a poor cat over the summer because of some kind of trash, and I assume it came from the park because it was this huge thing of whatever it was. And that poor thing had that thing on his head for like 4 or 5 days until it was rescued. It made it, thank God, to Kitty Angels. But you know, there's only like one track. I've had to call multiple times, and the traffic is another issue. On Spitbrook Road, if you have cars parking on both sides, first of all, we can't see to pull out of our entrance. If there's bicyclists, they're not going to be on the sidewalk. And now you have a fire engine coming, and it's going to be a real bad thing.
How large is the parking lot supposed to be, do they say?
I think between both parking lots, I don't know, maybe 200 spots.
200 spots is still up. But you said
Maybe.
earlier, before the show, we talked about how
Not
large some of these
200. I don't
tournaments
even
might
think-
be.
yeah,
A tournament
maybe
could be
150.
100 to 400
Right.
participants
And
plus
spectators,
potential
Yeah,
spectators.
they usually bring their families with them and stuff. Yeah.
Sure. So
And then you got vendors,
yeah.
concessions, things like that.
Yeah.
So we're going to have a serious problem.
So this is a proposal really to change the use of the park, because there are users.
Yep.
People use this
Oh,
section
yeah. Mm-hmm.
of the park, and they want to change the use from one to another, and of course they're impacting the environment
Yeah.
and the wetlands and all
Well,
that.
they're still going to have the baseball, and it's not going to affect the baseball or the tot lot. But again, if there's cars from disc golf, where is the person going to park that wants to bring the kid to tot lot? And one example from last summer was there was a child with an evident walking disability, and all the cars were filling up near the tot lot, parked in the disabled parking.
Yep.
And that child had to walk from the upper lot to the lower lot, and he had great difficulty. And I was almost in tears to see that. And this is, people park across the crosswalk. I'm 5'3", so I had to walk between this huge SUV to cross the road, and I almost got hit because you can't see when people are parking like that. So that is a parking, it's an issue today. Well, not so much in the winter, but it's going to be an issue if this. They're touting it as a family activity, but they are grooming it for professional tournaments. Because why would they pay a professional disc golfer $5,000 to design the course?
Right. Clearly, a lot of issues here that really need, like Commissioner Pappas advised back in August of 2021. Let's slow down. Take a look at this. Get information from the abutters. You don't hate disc golf.
I don't hate disc golfers.
They can't label you a hater.
No.
They can't do any of that. But clearly, you're not happy, and many people aren't happy with the plan going forward, especially if that plan really excludes public comment. If they intimidate the public, and
that's what they're doing.
That's the MO. I know. I've seen it. That's what the city hall does. Intimidate them. That's their MO.
And for an example, I will tell you this: that they're going around, and if you can listen for yourself at the last Board of Public Works meeting, they're saying it's a done deal. This is intentionally, in my opinion, intentionally designed to stop people from fighting. And it's not over until it's over. And we're going to keep fighting.
My wife is on the Board of Public Works, and she mentioned that too. They're calling it a done deal. And that's wrong. It's not. Then that's intimidation. They're saying this is going to be built. Let's just move on. It's intimidation.
And she was speaking up for us so that we could have, equity and have, she was like, well, let these people speak as well. And honestly, in my opinion, she got bulldozed just like Commissioner Pappas did. On that day that she was there.
Well, Commissioner Pappas was a good friend of ours, and she encouraged my wife to run, and they helped each other out and supported each other. So
very nice lady, and she inspired me because she gave me, quite a bit of background and helped me with the process of the politics.
There's a lot of that. Well, thank you very much, Denise, for coming on. Time goes fast. Our time is up.
It went by really fast.
It zips right by.
Thank you for having me.
Well, my pleasure. Thanks for coming in. I want to thank you for tuning in, too. My name is David Shoneman, and you've been watching Perspectives. We're here talking about disc golf, potentially going into Roby Park, which I think in the eyes of many folks is a big disruption. Thank you, Denise, for coming in.
Very welcome.
We'll have you in again. And thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time.